Africa was never a poor, helpless land waiting to be rescued. Long before Europe built its first castle, Africa was building kingdoms, creating medicine, and mastering science. The continent had trade routes stretching across deserts, gold mines that lit up cities, and doctors performing surgery before Europe even had clean water. She had philosophers who debated the mysteries of existence, architects who carved temples from stone, engineers who mapped entire irrigation systems. Africa didn't wait for guidance. She was the guide. Africa has always been great, but that greatness was buried. Names were erased, books were burned, borders were redrawn. But truth doesn't die. Even when buried, it finds a way to rise. And today, voices like Captain Ibrahim Traoré are reminding the world Africa never disappeared. She was robbed. Ever heard of Mansa Musa? The richest man to ever walk the earth. And he came from Africa. He didn't just possess gold, he had vision, legacy, purpose. On his pilgrimage to Mecca, he gave away so much gold that it caused inflation in multiple nations. But his wealth wasn't just spent, it was invested. He funded schools, built mosques, and connected lands through wisdom and faith. He shaped empires without ever asking permission. But that part was cut from the history books. Instead, the world was taught about chains and pain. Because if Africans knew they came from royalty, if they knew their ancestors ruled with wisdom and wealth, they'd walk differently. They'd stop lowering their gaze. They'd rise when expected to shrink. And that's threatening. Timbuktu held libraries, while Europe still wrestled with hygiene. Thousands of scrolls filled with knowledge, science, philosophy, medicine. The University of Sankore wasn't just a school, it was a sanctuary of brilliance. People traveled across continents to learn from African minds. They studied stars with accuracy, performed surgeries with precision, debated theology with depth, and penned poetry that still echoes. Africa's universities weren't just academic, they were global treasures. But then came the invaders. They took what they couldn't understand, burned what they couldn't control, and called the land primitive. But silence isn't absence. The lie was loud, but the truth still breathing. It lingers in memory and roots in Africa's quiet rise. They didn't discover Africa, they invaded it. They didn't come with friendship, they came with chains. They chained our brothers. They renamed our mothers. They dragged families apart and sold them like cattle. They called it trade, but it was terror. They took children and called it colonization. They looted our lands, mocked our gods, erased our languages. They didn't bring civilization, they brought scars. But still, Africa didn't break. She bled, she cried, she screamed in silence. But she survived. Because you can whip the back, but you cannot touch the spirit. And Africa's spirit, it's eternal. It's rising still. Think of Shaka Zulu, fierce, brilliant, strategic. He united tribes, built armies, and struck fear into empires. He didn't ask for peace. He demanded respect. Or Thomas Sankara, young, fearless, honest to a fault. He refused foreign aid, drove expensive cars into the ground, and gave the people dignity. He was assassinated for telling the truth too loudly. But even in death he speaks. He reminds us what leadership looks like. They didn't beg the world, they built their people. They stared empires in the face and never blinked. And they paid with their lives. But their courage still roars in Africa's bones. Their stories weren't just resistance, they were prophecy. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, not a puppet, not a politician, just a man unshaken, unbought. A young soldier with fire in his heart and clarity in his eyes. He rose not from wealth, but from principle. He's not interested in pleasing outsiders. He's focused on one thing, his people. Feeding them, protecting them, waking them up. He speaks less, does more. And guess what? They're rising with him. Because when a leader believes in his people, the people begin to believe in themselves. And belief, that's more dangerous than any bullet. The headlines call him dangerous. They say he's too young, too bold, too unpredictable. Why? Because he told the West, no more puppets, Africa will lead herself. He refuses to dance to foreign drums. He speaks with clarity, and that scares them. Because when one African thinks freely, others begin to wake up. They're scared not of him, but of the fire he's lighting across the continent. A fire that doesn't destroy, it purifies. It burns illusions, and what remains? Identity. Now they plot, lie, paid fake protest, media smear campaigns, false allegations. But he's still standing, not because he's untouchable, but because he's unshakable. And the youth are listening, not out of hype, but out of hunger. Hunger for truth, for pride, for power. Because finally, there's someone who looks like them, who speaks for them, and refuses to kneel. They tried to bury him, but they didn't know he was a seed. And seeds grow in silence before shaking the earth. Now, the earth is trembling. Traoré is not alone. He's part of something bigger, something ancient waking up. From Senegal to Congo, from Mali to South Africa, young Africans are rising. They're not just asking for change, they're becoming the change. They're not just angry, they're organized. They're picking up books, starting businesses, reclaiming languages, saying no to crumbs, and building their own tables. They're tired of being told who they are. Now they're defining it themselves. This isn't rebellion, it's rebirth. It's not chaos, it's clarity. And this time, the movement won't be silenced. This isn't a sad story. It's a comeback. It's not a eulogy. It's a resurrection. We're the sons of kings, daughters of queens. And now, we're waking up, telling our own stories, reclaiming our heritage. We're not waiting to be saved, we're saving ourselves. Writing our own history, speaking with our own voice. Because Africa was never broken. We were robbed, but now we're taking it back. One voice, one village, one vision at a time. And this time, we write the ending ourselves. Now hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop a heart for Africa if this stirred something in you. Because Africa's story won't spread itself. It needs voices like yours. Not tomorrow, now.